Hello everyone and welcome to our van life questions series. Today we are talking about how to stay warm in the cold without a Mr. Buddy heater. The thing is, we do have a Mr. Buddy heater. It is just in our storage shed in Wisconsin. So we spent 2 or 3 months in the cold, and the coldest it got was 19 degrees. And we didn't have a Mr. Buddy heater, and so we have some tips for you on how you can stay in the cold without one. Number 1, sleeping bags. A while back we bought 2 sleeping bags. They're 20-degree sleeping bags, that's 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which means that you can sleep in them with long underwear down to 20 degrees. So with our situation, we probably could go a little colder than 19 degrees with where we were, but I wouldn't recommend going any colder than that. But 20 degrees is a good temperature point for us. If you're going to be somewhere colder, you might want to get a colder one, or if you're going to be in warmer weather, you might want to get a little warmer one just so you're not too hot at night. And that's why I sleep with my sleeping bag unzipped most of the time, because it's not 20 degrees outside. The sleeping bags have been really good. They're nice to use even when it's a little warmer, because they're nice and light and you can not have a ton of blankets to cover you up. So I would highly recommend, if you're staying in the cold for a period of time, to get yourself a nice set of cold weather sleeping bags. Number 2, insulation. We have 1.5-inch foam board on the wall and 1.5-inch on the ceiling, and then a 1/2-inch insulation on the floor. We also, in our window coverings, we have double layer Reflectix that we glue together, and we use that to cover the windows at night. And then on our divider, we also have 1/2-inch foam board insulation on our divider. So the insulation kind of keeps our body heat inside the van and any heat that we had in the van before. I don't know if it does that much of a difference, because eventually you're gonna get cold at night, but it does help slow down the loss of heat. One final tip with insulation is that if you do have insulation on, we notice that it really helps when it gets down to the cold temperatures. So when it got below 35, we started to notice condensation in the van. So when you're using the insulation, it really helped. We noticed that spots that weren't insulated tended to get some condensation on them, and then the spots that were didn't really have any condensation at all. So condensation and moisture is a big issue in a van. If you want to be in the cold weather for a long period of time, we highly recommend insulating the van just to prevent your breath from condensating on the walls inside your van. Number 3, reroute your heat. In our van, we have a rear heater. Initially, we thought about taking it out, and then we realized what a pain it was to do that. And so what we did is we rerouted the heat from the back into the van. So the heater is under our bed, and if we wouldn't have done anything with it, it would just blow heat under our bed, which isn't very useful. We rerouted the heat so that it would come out into the main living area of our van. We noticed that with the heat, when we have it on versus not, you can tell a huge difference on how fast the back of the van heats up. Because we have a divider, it keeps a lot of that heat from flowing to the back of the van while we're driving. And so if you have rear heat, it really helps keep heat up the back of the van a lot faster than if we didn't have one. Number 4, move your van. If it's really cold outside and you think, I can't deal with this anymore, a good way to warm up a little bit is just move your van. So we've noticed that sometimes if you can move your van up or lower in elevation, that'll make a huge difference. I think we noticed generally if you move down about 1,000 feet in elevation, it'll warm up 5 to 10 degrees. So an easy tip is just to check the weather, and then if it's going to be cold where you are, then try to find some town or somewhere nearby where it's just a little lower in elevation, and you usually will find a little warmer temperatures as well. So yeah, 5 to 10 degrees when it's cold outside can make a huge difference in your comfort and how comfortable you are in your van. So definitely scout out the area that you're in and look at the weather and try to figure out, do I want to be at this elevation, or should we move a little lower and warm up a little bit?
My first tip for you to stay warm when it's cold outside is to wear the right amount of clothes when you're sleeping. If you're in cold weather for a while, you're gonna figure out what your body needs and how many clothes you'll need at certain temperatures. You wanna make sure that you wear enough clothes so you're comfortable when you're sleeping overnight in the cold, but you don't wanna wear too many clothes where you're sweating. If you sweat at night, you're gonna be super cold. So make sure that you just wear the right amount of clothes, and I'm sure your body will get used to it and you'll know what your body needs to stay warm when it's cold outside. My last tip for you is to just check the weather every day. We would check the weather all the time when we were staying in the cold because we wanted to be comfortable in the area that we were sleeping in. And also, like when you're traveling, a lot of the places we were going to were going to be cold. So sometimes we had to wait like a week just to go to those places because it was going to be too cold that week that we wanted to go. For instance, when we went to Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons, that was like the coldest weather for us. And we knew it was going to be super cold the week before, so we waited a whole week just to go there, so it was a little warmer, and it was still 19 degrees out. If you check the weather beforehand, you can plan your trip accordingly and just go to the places when you know it's a little bit warmer and more comfortable for you to sleep.
Here are a few tips to help you stay a little warmer. My first tip, and I think the most important thing, is you want to crack your windows and your vents at night, even though it's really cold outside, because it helps with the moisture. When we were sleeping at really cold temperatures, we noticed that there's a lot of moisture, and this is a huge mistake. When it was 19 degrees outside, we didn't crack our vents because it was so cold and we were trying to stay as warm as we could in the van. But the downside is when we woke up, our van was dripping. So we had water dripping from condensation inside our van, and you do not want water and moisture in your van because you're gonna get mold and it's not healthy. So even though it's really cold outside, you need to crack your windows and crack your vents. My second tip is, I think the lowest you can go if without a heater is about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. We have 20-degree sleeping bags, which makes sense. I mean, you could go lower than that, but this is not really that comfortable. And if you're gonna be spending time in your van, you have to work in there or whatnot, it's really miserable to stay in the cold. For us, the coldest we think we could go is 20 degrees Fahrenheit. We were just traveling through the cold. We weren't gonna stay there long term, so we didn't really find a heater necessary. But if you were gonna stay in the cold weather for a long period of time, having a heater would really make a huge difference in how comfortable it is in the van. If you're gonna have a heater in your vehicle, really research and understand how to be safe. But if you're just traveling through the cold and you're gonna be in the cold for a month or two, you don't really, for us, we didn't really feel like we needed one unless it was colder than 20 degrees. This is how we stay warm in our van without a Mr. Buddy heater. I'm sure you guys have some good tips. You can leave those in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.